do. It was such a truthful book. And I think everything just, to me, everything changes for your life, it seems like, talking about your life here, Michelle, is that when you're in the restaurant and you tell him, hey, I've made a bad mistake back in South Carolina. I want people to read the book, by the way, back in South Carolina. And that seems
Oh, that truth. Oh, that truth.
yeah, that truth
Oh, that
also,
truth. Oh, oh my
that to
gosh.
me was
Yes.
powerful to me,
Oh
Michelle.
yeah, no, you're right. You're
Oh,
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And you know what? Again, I was terrified
oh,
because in your gut, there's this thing hanging over you. It was like hanging over. It was the sword of Damocles hanging over my head. And I was the kind of person. No matter what my involvement, I felt the blame because I felt the pain of that kid and I felt the pain of that mother and any level of mistake that I made or any part of it, I totally owned it. And it was terrifying to be in it. And it was terrifying to be looking for another job because in the grand scheme of
yeah.
things, in this profession, nobody talks about their mistakes. Nobody tells
No one
you,
does, Michelle. No one does. No
nobody
one
talks
does.
about the
No
things
one
that go
does.
wrong that they survive or that they pick up the pieces from. I mean, so I felt, you know, that I was damaged goods. And I felt that if he was going to, I felt in order for him or in order for me to be okay with like, I don't want to give him a piece of, in my head, I don't want to give him a piece of bad, a bad asset, or at least I wanted him to know the asset he was getting because he was so nice and so kind and so straightforward and unlike any other boss or any other news director that I've ever encountered because he was like quirky and funny and engaging. And Joe Duke was just this, they don't make him like him anymore. They just
No,
don't.
he was so
They
graceful,
just,
though, Michelle. He was so
and
graceful.
graceful and super smart. Like this is a guy who started his career as a cameraman, but was a journalist at heart
Mm,
and worked his way through and decided, you know what, I'm going to go get my law degree because Loyola was associated with WWL
yeah.
and they gave people free educations who were associated with this, that had, it was like this, anybody at WWL could go to Loyola University for free or
Wow.
for a completely reduced rate. And so the number of people who got their their undergraduate or their masters or their JD, they were golden. But he came from, he worked his way up, so he understood things too. I mean, look, Mark always tells me this. He's like, look, this is the guy that picked Hoda Kotb out of the the
What a
the
lineup.
corner of Florida.
Yeah.
He did the same thing for Tom Foreman, I believe. He did the same thing for Karen Swinson and not Angela Hill, but certainly for me.
Sally Roberts also. That was another one.
Was it Joe's pick?
I
I
thought
think
it
he
was.
was. No. Joe is still. I think Joe was over at Channel 6
Okay.
still. But all of that said, he had such an incredible like eye for talent. And
Yeah.
so like having this guy sort of say, "Hey, I'm interested in you." I was kind of like, "Ooh, I got to tell him what I'm dealing with." Because he was just so forthright and
A
so
powerful
forthcoming.
moment, though, Michelle, for me. I'm reading the book and I'm going, everything changes for her life
Yep.
at that restaurant. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's so I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's just so now in the book, I gotta talk about this in the book. There's so many ebbs and flows. When you hit send on it to send it to the publisher, what did you think? Because it is like I can't wait to get a hard copy of it, to be honest with you. But what did you think?
I was numb. So, let me full disclosure, because I'm all about full disclosure. I did not write this alone. I had a co-writer. Her name was Rosemary Robotham. She's an incredibly gifted, beautiful writer. And, I've never written a book. So, I am a specific type of writer, and if you know about writing, there are all these formats, right? And
Yes.
so I wanted to tell a story that people would be engaged in. I attempted to write this book, um, and I think about what I wrote versus what she helped me write, and it was just like night and day. So that could just to kind of give you
Gotcha.
a glimpse of that. So when we pushed the send button, it was, Rosemary and I were both very vulnerable. I was vulnerable because I was exposing all of these secrets, all of these,
Yeah.
my thoughts and feelings over the past 50 years. Um, it was, why am I doing this? I was questioning why anybody would want to read it, and what, was it a story worth reading? I mean, all of those things kind of like flow through your mind. And it was interesting because within the last 2 weeks, it dawned on me that every day I tell the stories of ordinary people.
Mm.
And I do it, all of my colleagues do it, and people are fascinated by these
Yeah.
stories of ordinary people. So my story is like all these other stories that we cover, and they do resonate with people. So it just gave me this, like, I don't think, like, the aha moment happened
Mm.
only 2 weeks ago. It's like, oh,
Wow. Wow.
wait, I'm okay. I don't have to be super famous. I don't have to be, like a headline no, I am one person in this unbelievable world we live in who has a story, and hopefully, like, it will touch people.
So next last question, Michelle. I'm so sorry I go all day. Um, the other theme of the book that I got out of it was you survived, Michelle. Like when I'm reading
Look,
these stories, wow.
but I wasn't a starving kid. I wasn't poor. I was just a person who lived all these different circumstances. And yes, that's the other thing. I think that my story is so familiar to so many people. It's like, and there are tons of people out there just like me. The difference is that I'm trying to come clean of owning any shame of
Hmm.
circumstances and or um I think, yeah, I'm trying to like sort of shed any negativity over I how I came to be, what I lived through, where I lived through, all of those things that people place meaning in, that really are constructs of our society. And and there are a lot of people who have gone through this who are successful. They just don't talk about it.
Hmm.
They are they and then there's some people who hold on to this kind of pain, and I don't want them to,
Hmm.
because like, you have one life, one, and no matter what you're born into, and no matter what your circumstances, you got to make the most of it, and you got to be happy. You got to find the happiness.
Hmm.
It's possible even through pain and struggle and circumstance. I don't want anybody to think that my life was like what I've covered. I've covered so many
Right. No, I hear.
tragic stories, true survivor stories. But it is a painful story of longing and finding belonging.
Yeah. And that's what made me kind of gravitate towards it because some of the stories I've been through personally. And so as I was reading them, I was like, whoa, her too. If that makes sense to you at all, Michelle. And then the story about Big Mama, I mean, that is incredible. Like when I get to heaven, like I want to meet her. Just because I was like, she's incredible. Like I actually cried when she passed away in the book. I was like, okay, why am I crying in this book here that's on the screen of my computer? This is so just like weird, mind. Get it together in my mind here. I felt like you were writing the book, and I know you were writing to all of us. I felt like you were writing it to me personally, Michelle.
Can
Um,
I tell you? Can I tell you a crazy story? So when I was in college, you know, I went to Howard. Where did you go to
Yeah.
school? You went to Howard?
No, I did not. I wish I did though. Liberty.
Okay,
University.
so Howard University, their student center has this eatery called the Punch Out. And my sophomore year in college, Sonia Sanchez came, the great poet, came to us to read. And my grandmother had been dead for about 4 or 5 years by then. And she is reading this poem about her grandmother or a grandmother. And I don't think I ever properly grieved. But let me tell you, in the middle of all these people, I wailed like it was like a rebel yell. I screamed and cried in heaving sobs. So much to the point she had to stop and walk me out and to make sure I was okay. And I understand that because, you know, all of us have big mamas. If we're
Yes.
lucky, we all have big mamas.
Yes.
Who, no matter what, are going to get the job done, no matter the circumstances, no matter the what people say, no matter how much money they have coming in. Big mamas take care of business. They take care of family, and they make sure that the job is done. You know, and she was just that way. And I, you know, it's so funny. The personality I hear of my big mama as is everyone's friend, mother. Like they saw her, like I was still a child, so they saw her grown. So this great sense of humor, this incredible intellect and insight, the stories she used to tell. I never experienced any of that. What I did experience was this, you know, there's a power to presence.
Yes. Yeah.
And the power of stability and a power of knowing you're okay, even if everything else around you is spinning. And so that's what she did for me. She must have done that for me because I'm okay.
Man, she was a powerful force. She made me as a dad go, am I doing all that I can do for my daughter? Well, honestly, because I was like, I am lazy after reading her story of all that she did, Michelle. Well, my time is up. And I got to tell you, thank you for making us all belong after.
Oh, thank you.
In your journey, because I literally put the book down and I said, okay, I don't just know her. We're like really close friends now. No, I'm joking. I said, well, wow, what a story. And I just have seen, it was so cool to see how God just interwoven your life together to where I said, I've gotten fired before. So has she. Praise the Lord. I've done this. Like I really was there, like all throughout the book on my screen here going, I love this so much. So Michelle, I usually take notes and type them up and get ready for interviews. On this one, in my journal, I said, I'm not typing up notes today. Like I am journaling.
Oh,
it's all throughout this. I've journaled things I've learned from your book. And so
wow.
I told James Brown, I said, it's early in the year, but it's the best book I've read this year.
Hands down. It is really early in the year.
It is, but I'm still
hopefully I can keep that bar up high and nobody's gonna.
Michelle, I wish you well. Thank you for your time. You're so gracious on a Friday to do this. And
no, absolutely. Thanks for having me.